Hello, this is a writing process workshop video where we will play a game called What's Wrong with My Intro? An introductory paragraph has a number of important jobs to do within the context of an academic essay. The first paragraph of an essay needs to 1. Stimulate the reader's interest, 2. Identify the writer's thesis, and 3. Establish an authoritative academic tone. At the same time, writing an introduction involves unique challenges. An introduction should provide enough information to give a reader a sense of what to expect in the essay, but not too much information that it becomes weighted down with details. An introduction needs to be engaging and personable, but not at the expense of sacrificing a professional and objective tone of voice. Most importantly, since the introduction is the first part of the paper that a writer typically begins writing, writers often use their introduction as a kind of painter's palette to test out their own ideas about a subject. It can be hard to figure out how to most effectively introduce an essay when the essay itself has not been written yet. For this reason, introductions are usually the most intensively revised paragraphs of an academic essay. The more clearly the body of your essay begins to take shape, the easier it will be to understand what kind of introduction is best suited to the essay you have written. Drafting out an introductory paragraph can be a helpful first step in guiding the composition of an essay's body. Writing and revising an introductory paragraph helps writers to begin the process of translating ideas in their heads into a series of paragraphs on a page. With this perspective in mind, it may be helpful to examine several drafts of introductory paragraphs to see what their writers are doing well and how continued revision can help to clarify their ideas and enhance their ability to convey a sense of scholarly ethos. This is the first introductory paragraph that we can look at. It's an introductory paragraph, a draft of an introductory paragraph for an essay about coffee. And here's the unedited draft of this paragraph. Coffee has been a controversy for over 500 years, from how it was discovered to what is the proper way of drinking it, or who was the first person to discover this delicious drink many people seem to enjoy. Perhaps it's hard to determinate what is the proper way of drinking coffee. Around the world, coffee is drunk in many ways. For instance, in Finland, coffee is consumed with cheese curds. Many people will find that strange. In America, most of the coffee is drunk with cream and sugar. Standard form around here, coffee can be drunk in many ways: hot, cold, black, with cream, sugar. So, as with any revision process, the first step is to tidy up the grammar in order to be fully able to understand what this writer is saying. When you clean up the grammar, it sounds something like this. Coffee has been a controversy for over 500 years. People have debated how it was discovered and who exactly discovered it, as well as how to drink it. It is hard to determine what the proper way of drinking coffee is. Around the world, coffee is prepared in many ways. For instance, in Finland, coffee is consumed with cheese curds, which many people might find strange. In America, most coffee is served with cream and sugar. Coffee can be prepared in many ways: hot, cold, and black, or mixed with cream and sugar. So this writer has an interesting topic to discuss: the variety of ways that coffee drinks are consumed around the world. When we look at coffee through this perspective, we see that, like anything else, coffee has been incorporated into cultural practices and local customs in ways that reflect the unique historical circumstances of different groups of people, from Americans with their taste for refined sugar and cow's milk, to Middle Easterners with their coffee houses that serve a dense, unfiltered coffee slurry. This topic has enormous potential, but the introduction needs to be revised for the following reasons. 1. False controversy. It is inaccurate to describe the question of how to prepare coffee as a controversy. I can enjoy my cafe Americano without questioning someone else's right to drink their Turkish coffee. There are indeed controversies around certain historical details of where coffee was invented and how it became popularized, as well as the health effects, the sustainability of its production, etc. But these issues are not directly connected to the author's thesis, which is more about the diversity of coffee drinking than about these controversies. It is not rational to say that it is hard to determine what the proper way of drinking coffee is, since anyone would assume that there are different ways, each suited to the tastes of particular coffee drinkers. Problem number 2, thesis unclear and hidden. The writer's thesis appears to be the claim that coffee is enjoyed in different ways around the world, and this thesis is explicitly stated in the introduction. But the thesis needs to be relocated toward the end of the paragraph so that it stands out more prominently, and it needs to be more specific. In this case, it would be helpful for both the reader and the writer to know what specific coffee cultures will be under discussion over the course of this essay, whether this discussion is organized by region. For example, you could talk about North America, then China, then Finland, or whether another organizing principle is introduced. For example, you could talk about the social, economic, and political impacts of coffee culture. Problem number 3, random factoid. The example of Finnish people eating coffee with cheese curds is colorful, but it is not deployed effectively in this introduction. An introduction does not need to go into this level of detail unless the writer is using a detail as part of a broader opening strategy. The writer should either use this Finnish example as part of an opening strategy, using like the surprising fact tactic, or save a more extended discussion of this unique serving suggestion for one of the essay's body paragraphs. Putting these suggestions into practice results in an intro paragraph that might look something like this. Visitors to Finland may be shocked to sit down to a hot cup of coffee to discover cheese curds floating in their cup. For 500 years, coffee has been one of the most popular beverages in the world, becoming an almost universal drink. This unusual Finnish custom, however, demonstrates the manner in which different cultures have adapted coffee to suit their own tastes and cultural practices. While coffee is enjoyed around the globe, the ways it is enjoyed are surprisingly variable, providing a window into the diversity of human societies. While North Americans tend to enjoy their coffee with lots of cream and sugar, coffee drinkers in Italy, Ethiopia, and Mexico have developed coffee drinks that reflect their own culinary and cultural identities. This revised paragraph is an improvement on the original draft because, for one thing, it replaces the false controversy with a more relevant focus on the diversity of coffee drinking. For another thing, it makes the thesis more specific by referring to specific communities of coffee drinkers, in this case from Italy, Ethiopia, and Mexico. It clarifies the thesis by placing it at the end of the paragraph, as you can see highlighted in blue here. And it uses an opening strategy to solicit the reader's interest. So here's another introductory paragraph. This is an introductory paragraph for an essay about music. This is the unedited version of the paragraph. Music has a long history and interesting behavior. Music existed for at least 55,000 years, and historians proposed that first rhythms originated from Africa. Since the beginning, music became part of a person's life. Just like anything else became better with time moving forward, music evolved when new instruments were introduced, new rhythms were discovered, and identifying voices that as pleasurable. Music started from prehistoric period and continues till today. With evolving technology, people begun to be more creative with interesting melodies, lyrics, and styles of music than they had before. So as always, the first thing we want to do is to clear up the grammar and hear what the paragraph sounds like once the technical issues have been resolved. Music has a long history. Music has existed for at least 55,000 years, and historians proposed that the first rhythms originated in Africa. Since the beginning, music has become part of every person's life. Music evolved when new instruments were introduced, new rhythms were discovered, and new voices came to be thought of as pleasurable. Music started during the prehistoric period and continues today. With evolving technology, people have begun to be more creative with interesting melodies, lyrics, and styles of music. So this is a promising introduction for an essay about the evolution of music from the prehistoric era into the digital age, but it too could use some continued revision to address the following issues. Issue number 1, unnecessary and repetitive sentences. Although this introduction is short, it is also unnecessarily wordy. Deleting the second and fourth sentences results in a clearer, less cluttered paragraph that focuses more directly on the ancient origins of music and its contemporary evolution. So when you read the paragraph without those highlighted sentences, it sounds a little clearer. Music has a long history, music has existed for at least 55,000 years, and historians propose that the first rhythms originated in Africa. Music evolved when new instruments were introduced, new rhythms were discovered, and new voices came to be thought of as pleasurable. With evolving technology, people have begun to be more creative with interesting melodies, lyrics, and styles of music. Issue number 2, the scope is unrealistically broad. The scope of the essay is too broad. It is unreasonable to expect to cover the entire history of music from caveman days to modern times in a 5-page essay. Fortunately, this introductory paragraph does include a thesis statement that suggests that the essay is not really about the whole history of music, but is simply using the perspective of deep history to introduce a much narrower topic, the way evolving technologies have led musicians to experiment with new melodies, lyrics, and musical styles. This three-part structure gives this essay a clear path forward, but it also means that the material about the ancient origins of music will be restricted to the introductory paragraph. The author might consider using the interesting facts she presents about the history of music as the basis for an introductory strategy. 3. No introductory strategy. As written, this introductory paragraph lacks a strong introductory strategy, but the interesting fact presented in the second sentence suggests a remedy for this problem. Identifying the 55,000-year figure as the basis for an introductory strategy allows the writer to more effectively pivot from the deep history into the more contemporary focus of the paper's thesis. Starting off with this revised introductory strategy, the revised intro paragraph might look something like this. According to paleoanthropologists, human beings have been making music since at least 55,000 years ago. Evidence from ancient sites shows that early Homo sapiens used animal horns as wind instruments, stretched animal hides to make drums, and collected beads into hollow gourds to make other percussion instruments. Since these early days, music has evolved as new instruments have been invented, new rhythms were discovered, and new voices came to be thought of as pleasurable. This cultural development has continued into the present day. With evolving technology, musicians have become more creative, developing interesting new melodies, lyrics, and styles of music. So this revised paragraph is an improvement because, for one thing, it focuses on one main idea, the development of music from prehistoric times until now. For a second thing, it sets up the paper to discuss three specific developments in modern music rather than promising a total history of human music. And it begins with an introductory strategy that grabs the reader's attention. So here's a third and final example of an introductory paragraph. This one is a draft of a paragraph for an essay about entrepreneurs and community development. And the unedited draft goes like this. Community development is a crucial role to the global economy that entrepreneurship play a big role in. Entrepreneurs nurture and develop like-minded individuals. That helps the members of the community learn new education or job training they can expand upon or take with to another career. What motivates a person to start a new business? According to traditional models, entrepreneurs create new businesses in response to unmet needs and demands in the market. Most local businesses support local communities and charities. With new and more funds, these organizations can fix or build new parks, create better foundations for charities, provide the basic necessities for those in need like food, clothes, and shelter. Some famous individuals like Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey donate their money to finance good causes from education to public health. Charitable giving continued its upward trend in 2017 as an estimated $410.02 billion was given to charitable causes. For the third year in a row, total giving reached record levels. So as always, we'll start by cleaning up the technical issues. Then the revised paragraph then sounds like this. Community development plays a crucial role in the global economy, and entrepreneurs have been instrumental in fostering community development. Entrepreneurs nurture and develop like-minded individuals. They help the members of the community to receive new education or job training that they can expand upon or take with them to another career. What motivates a person to start a new business? According to traditional models, entrepreneurs create new businesses in response to unmet needs and demands in the market. Most local businesses support local communities and charities. With new and more funds, these organizations can fix or build new parks, create better foundations for charities, and provide the basic necessities for those in need, like food, clothes, and shelter. Some famous individuals, like Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey, donate their money to finance good causes, from education to public health. Charitable giving continued its upward trend in 2017 as an estimated $410.02 billion was given to charitable causes. For the third year in a row, total giving reached record levels. So this essay identifies an interesting topic to discuss, the role of private businesses in promoting community development, and the writer demonstrates a clear familiarity with some relevant facts and figures and sources of information about this topic. For revision, however, there are a few issues that this writer should consider addressing. Issue number 1, too much information. The first issue is that there is too much going on in this paragraph to provide a clear argument. The writer is basically taking two topics, community development and entrepreneurship, and examining their intersection. This means that it is important to distinguish between those two topics and to introduce them one at a time. The focus on this introductory paragraph needs to be on identifying the relationship between community development and entrepreneurship, and the more granular details about Gates and Winfrey and the question of what motivates people to become entrepreneurs, while relevant to this topic, are too specific for an introductory paragraph, which should stay focused on the big picture. The barrage of facts and cited information overwhelms the basic structure of this paragraph, leaving it uncertain what the writer's thesis is. Issue number 2. Unclear thesis. The thesis is not explicitly stated, so it is difficult to tell where the writer is going with this essay. There is a thesis that is between the lines, that private companies have an important role to play in community development, but a reader has to strain to find this thesis. If this is the thesis, furthermore, it will require a broader examination of the controversy regarding the question of where funding for community development projects should come from. Alternatively, it may be the case that the writer's thesis focuses on the role of private charitable organizations and the specific priorities the writer identifies, providing access to education, developing parks, establishing organizations, and providing for basic human needs, a thesis which would take the essay in a different direction. Either way, the thesis should be prominently stated to remove this source of confusion. Issue number 3. No introductory strategy. As in the previous examples, material that is thrown into this introduction somewhat haphazardly could be more effectively repurposed to develop a more effective opening strategy. The names Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates capture readers' attention, and readers might be surprised to hear what an important role charitable giving plays in community development. For these reasons, this material holds potential as a basis for an opening strategy that attracts the reader's attention. The revised paragraph might look something like this. In 2017, private individuals and organizations donated more than $410 billion to charitable causes. 2017 was the third year in a row that total giving reached record levels. While government agencies play a crucial role in providing assistance to people and communities that need help, it is increasingly the case that entrepreneurs and private businesses have accepted a share of their social responsibility. Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey provide two high-profile examples of successful business people who have donated their money to finance good causes from education to public health. But small business people throughout America's neighborhoods and small towns have been instrumental in fostering the development of their communities through charitable giving. As a society, we should do more to recognize the contributions of these unsung heroes and to make it easier for private businesses to give back to their communities. So this revised paragraph is an improvement over the draft because, for one thing, it repurposes the random information contained in the original draft into a deliberate opening strategy to get my attention with some surprising facts and figures. Number 2, it clarifies the connection between charitable giving and entrepreneurs. And number 3, it identifies a specific argument that the writer intends to make, and it locates that argument in a thesis position at the very end of the introductory paragraph. These examples demonstrate the fact that writing is a process. It doesn't always come out right the first time, but any first attempt can become the basis for revisions that can develop into more professional-sounding sentences and paragraphs. As you compose your own introductory paragraphs this week, consider how you can use the revision process to engage your readers, clarify your message, and establish your own authority as an academic writer.